This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditations. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. This evening, let's see here. Well, thank you very much. Right back at you. Ruth. So, let's recite the 5th chapter of the Diamond Sutra. What do you think, Subhuti? Can the Tathagata be seen by means of the acquisition of attributes? So there are two meanings going on here. Conventionally, there is a myth that there are 32 major signs of a Buddha, and you can just hold a clipboard and a pencil and just look at a Buddha and check those 32 things. No, those 32 signs were metaphors. You see, my friends, Sturgeon's law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, including humans, including meditation teachers. What could that suckiness look like? It looks like people being conditioned to being rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. When we are habitually rigid, we fail to recognize figures of speech, metaphors, simile, hyperbole, and the like. And we see that not just in institutional Buddhism, but in the institutional facet of every human endeavor, this rigidity, these controlling tendencies, just resulting in just mind-boggling folly. So our job is not to run around the countryside and determine who is enlightened and who is not, especially since the Buddha explained in the penultimate passage of the Satipatthana Sutta that one could master his path in as little as 7 days. Enlightenment was never supposed to be this mystical, weird thing for only a few special people. It's for everybody. So our job is not to run around and judge people and evaluate people. If we're looking for a teacher, fine, you ask someone for teachings. If they won't give you teachings, then find someone who will. If someone will give you teachings, then apply them at least once every 12 hours for 7 consecutive days. If you can't or won't do that, then finding the right teacher is not your biggest problem. But let's say you're able to do that and you get crap results. Then approach that person and explain you got crap results. And either they will patiently work with you and try to help you understand the teachings, or they'll just be a shithead. And if they're a shithead, go find a better teacher. But if they work with you and it still doesn't work with you for you, then those teachings are not for you at this time, if ever. So what's the test of the teachings? Simple. When you apply a technique every 12 hours for 7 consecutive days, at the end of the second session on the 7th day, ask yourself 2 questions. Am I experiencing greater peace? Am I experiencing greater love for others? If the answer is not a resounding yes, then you haven't found the right teacher or the right technique. That's it. Anything else is folly. So let's continue. Oh yeah, and this was the conventional aspect. The ultimate aspect we're going to explore in the next few pages. Subhuti replied, "No, Bhagavan, the Tathagata cannot be seen by means of the acquisition of attributes." And why not? Bhagavan, the Tathagata, speaks of the acquisition of attributes as the acquisition of no attributes. The Buddha then told the Venerable Subhuti, since attributes are a fiction, Subhuti, no attributes would not be a fiction. Hence, by means of attributes that are not attributes, the Tathagata can indeed be seen. As they say on South Park, what? Here's how this works. So as we relax, let's go over here. Whoops, wrong button. So I'm going to hit this button. I'm going to hit button number 9. I'm going to take you back to our basic page full of diagrams. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever fool or sage we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could both feel a little bit less, fleetingly less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and even a little bit less tangible. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever fool or fiend or sage we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as if they were melting into the simplicity of just a person. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever attributes we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, less permanent, less defining, and even as non-graspable as a vast empty void. Now, when I was in fourth grade, I was taught that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So we have to ask the question, what? What is a real-world example of a non-graspable vast empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand? And so whether we're talking about emptiness or whether we're talking about no self, these are just metaphors to describe the fleeting experience latent within every exhalation. The purpose of the 30 passages of the Diamond Sutra are not to give us pseudo-spiritual puzzles to worry over. Au contraire, is just to remind us that as we breathe in, we are to notice, and as we exhale, we are to relax. Regardless of what we notice, whether we notice something external or internal, something physical or mental, something pleasurable or painful, something interesting or boring, something glorious or grotesque, someone on the spiritual path or not on the spiritual path, someone flailing on the spiritual path or someone mastering on the spiritual path. Or even if we're looking at a mirror, whatever we notice as we breathe in, we are to notice it vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. And as we breathe out, we are to relax physically and mentally as best we can. That's the path. Practice it well, and you can master it in as little as a week. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. For the remainder of this evening's live stream, together, let us sit and breathe and notice and rest. The most efficient way for us to gently invite our subtle energies to coalesce at our crown is for us to touch the tip of our left index finger to the lower knuckle of our right index finger, palms up in our lap. Let's review a couple rules of thumb. The most efficient way for us to practice mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this every time we feel air enter our nostrils. Similarly, the most efficient way for us to practice meditation is for us to silently and mentally recite the verb rest every time we feel air exit our nostrils. The moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or techniques that support meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 5 minutes or so. Now let's see, it's 11 minutes after the hour, and I like to meditate until 55 minutes after the hour. So that would be 44 minutes. Let's bear that. Let's go for it. See what happens. Emptiness is not a panacea. That is a lie of patriarchy, a lie designed to overwhelm us and make us feel less than. There is a lie that if we were truly spiritual, we would feel no physical or emotional pain. Malarkey. Our job is to be vulnerable to the full spectrum of perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. The interesting, the boring, the glorious, and the grotesque. It is as if, while meditating, we are at a playhouse, a theater, if you will. Remember that we are not the producer, the director, the playwright, or the thespian. We're the bloke in the audience sitting on a wooden chair, sucking on a hard candy, enjoying the antics of the thespians upon the stage. That's it. Emptiness is just a metaphor for the experience, the fleeting experience available in every exhalation. It exists to help us to simply cope with what Shakespeare described as the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Elitists are into duality. There's here and there's there. And there is always better than here. So you better fix something. You better chase something. You better chase an emotional state. You better chase a psychophysical state. You better chase some special trance. Nope. That's not necessary. We don't chase a state. We make peace with the present moment, even if the present moment is a memory, even if the present moment is a nightmare. Many people squander their lives trying to prepare for the next one, if there is such a thing. For those anxious about a real or imagined next rebirth, the Buddha taught the easiest way to ensure an auspicious rebirth, if there is such a thing, is love. The highest love is not a contrivance, it's not a contemplation, it's not a chant. The highest love is the spontaneous and uncontrived byproduct of simply noticing and relaxing in harmony with our breath. So to illustrate that, I would like to subject you to another diagram. Functional magnetic resonance imaging shows us that the amygdala is the seat of anxiety and aggression. It also shows us that when we cooperate with our sympathetic nervous system as we breathe in, and our parasympathetic nervous system as we breathe out, the anxiety and aggression of our amygdala is calmed, and the empathy, our anterior cingulate gyrus, is gently stimulated. You can't stimulate your anterior cingulate gyrus through concentration or through contemplations, through focus or analysis. But you can stimulate it just by noticing and relaxing in harmony with our phases of breath. One of my Zen teachers was fond of the aphorism, "The Pure Land, paradise, is now or never." And what this teaches is that we don't need to visualize or pray or do rituals or chants in hopes of an auspicious rebirth. We need to cooperate with our body and mind in such a way. We need to notice and relax in such a way that we're able to cope with life and be our most loving, insightful, spontaneous, go with the flow version of ourselves. Hey, Gail, thank you very much for saying hi. And thank you for making an appearance on the second platform. Gail, you're the best. When I first began experimenting with meditation, I wanted to get somewhere. As an abused child, I wanted to get away from peril and to safety, no less love. As someone who, as a young adult who had escaped a cult, I wanted to receive physical and safety and emotional love. And so my journey on the path of meditation was quickly sidetracked into various and sundry variations on a theme of manifesting. There is a wonderful story I would like to share with you, if I may. I'd like to read it to you directly from one of the books I keep next to me. Let's see. Here we go. There it is. Okay. So this is a book written by one of my late teachers. The older you get, the more of your teachers die. So this is written by Lama Gyatso, and he wrote, and this is written from a fundamentalist perspective. When Buddha Shakyamuni was a bodhisattva, he accumulated a vast amount of merit, good karma, by making extensive offerings and practicing giving. His spiritual guide predicted that as a result of this vast accumulation of merit, he would enjoy the wealth of a Chakravartin king for many aeons. Instead, however, he dedicated all this merit so that when he became a Buddha, none of his pure followers would ever die of hunger. Since then, thousands of pure practitioners have benefited from the Buddha's dedication. Now, that was written from a very fundamentalist, rigid, superstitious perspective, but he's going to make a point. Tibet was a very poor country, and many practitioners chose to live in the most inhospitable and inaccessible areas to engage in spiritual practice. But not one ever died of starvation. In all the countries where Buddha Dharma has flourished, such as Tibet, China, India, and Mongolia, there is not a single case of a pure Dharma practitioner dying of starvation. Of course, many died from bullet wounds, but that's completely different. Even in a place stricken with famine, where many ordinary people die of hunger, pure practitioners miraculously find food, just as this has happened in the past. So, for as long as Buddhist doctrine remains in this world, it will continue to happen in the future. This is an example of someone dedicating their virtuous actions, good karma, of giving to others, and others receiving the benefits of that dedication. And now comes the story that I really, really like. In fact, I'm going to move the paper clips on the future. I won't have to deal with all the rigmarole. Here we go. The Kadampa Geshes used to say that when someone abandons attachment to wealth, wealth descends upon them like birds descending from the sky. Just as birds do not come from one particular direction, but gather from all sides. So, if we mentally renounce wealth, it will come naturally from many different sources. This was the experience of the Kadampa Geshes. And then he gives a beautiful example. After the Chinese invasion of Tibet, a Geshe from Sera Monastery called Tubten Tashe fled from Tibet to Nepal. While traveling through Tibet, he was able to beg for his food. But when he came to Nepal, he found himself with nothing to eat. However, because he didn't speak Nepalese. However, where am I? There we go. Instead of becoming discouraged, he thought, until now I have been attached to my body and cared for it unceasingly, but I have received no lasting benefit. It would be better if I completely renounced attachment to my body and enjoyments and used the rest of my life to practice Dharma purely and prepare for my next life. With this thought, he left the town he was staying in and went up into the mountains, where he found a disused shepherd's hut. Since he had no food, he did not expect to live for more than a few days. But he was not afraid and used the time to practice the yoga of Buddha Shakyamuni and the 6 preparatory practices of Lam Rim. Remember, this is from a fundamentalist point of view. After a few days, some shepherds appeared outside his hut and asked what he was doing there. He replied that he was there to die and would be dead within a week. A week later, the shepherds returned and found him alive and well and not even hungry. They spread the news that an unusual man was living in the mountains. An old woman heard this, and thinking that he might be a yogi who could give her advice, climbed up to his hut. On seeing her, the geshe immediately asked, "Have you been having bad dreams?" He had not intended to say this. The words just came out of his mouth. She had, in fact, come to ask him about some disturbing dreams she had recently experienced. Taken aback, she replied, "How did you know I came here to see you about my dreams? You must be a Buddha." Later, she told all the villagers that a Buddha was living in the mountains, and his reputation quickly spread. Many people brought him food and asked him advice. He performed several successful divinations and became known as Dri Rinpoche. Tibetans don't trill their R's. Dri Rinpoche. I met this geshe personally, and he told me that a pure Dharma practitioner would not be able to die of hunger, even if he or she tried to do so. This story demonstrates the power of Buddha Shakyamuni's dedication. So, clearly the writing style of that author was full of the fundamentalist buzzwords like pure Dharma practitioner, which excites anxiety, makes people wonder, am I a pure Dharma practitioner? That's not the point. The point is this. If we just focus our energy on sitting, breathing, noticing, and relaxing, wisdom will take care of itself. The flow state will take care of itself. Love will take care of itself. Enlightenment will take care of itself. And serendipity will take care of itself. In about 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's morning lesson and practice of meditating like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.